Hey everybody, welcome to Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page. On this episode, the man behind the legendary Katz'S Deli in New York. You know, the place Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal shot the "I'll have what she's having" scene in the movie When Harry Met Sally, and the 2025 Super Bowl ad that recreated it for Helmann's mayonnaise. Here's Katz's owner, Jake Dell. Jake, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, anytime. You own one of my favorite restaurants in the entire world. So.
Oh, thank you. I like it, but I'm not the most objective person in the world, so thank you.
A little bias doesn't hurt. Let me start off with what's in the zeitgeist right now. Were you in the restaurant when Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal shot the Helmann's commercial?
I was. It was a long day. It was about a 19-hour day. So it was a little tiring for us all, but it was a blast.
Which leads to the next question. Turkey and mayo as a deli sandwich?
So if you notice, that was exactly what she ordered in the movie. I did put in a stipulated that we would only do this commercial if there was no mayo on pastrami. And listen, if you really want mayo on your pastrami and you come in here, sure, I'll serve it to you. I might cringe a little bit and I might think you're crazy, but ultimately we're in hospitality and so you'll get your mayo, even though I think you're crazy.
Were you even alive when Harry Met Sally came out?
I was very young, so I don't remember all the details. My father and uncle were here for the filming of the original movie. I've heard all the stories, and especially we have some staff members that are still here that were there for that movie. So it was an interesting day, to say the least.
You mentioned your father and your uncle. Your name is not Katz.
Correct.
How did you end up owning Katz's Deli?
So I'm the fifth generation overall. I am the third generation in my family. So my grandfather was partners with the second generation of the Katz family, along with about 3 or 4 other families that were involved at the time. Next generations went their own ways for various reasons, whereas my family did not. So I grew up in the business. I had every birthday party here. I had my bar mitzvah here. I've been living, breathing pastrami since the womb.
Now, did you think, I mean, you got an MBA, so in the back of your mind, was there any inkling that you might go into this biz?
So I thought I was going to be a doctor all through high school and college. Did all the classes, took the MCATs, filled out the applications, and was getting ready for interviews while I was doing a gap year working here. At the end of that year, I decided not to go to any of the interviews, and I've never looked back. After that, that's when I went back and got my MBA at the request of my family. The last time we had modernized was like 30 years before that, So it was like, all right, go out there, learn, and see if there's other things that we can do better or that we're not doing the right way or whatever it may be, but all back of house stuff. Nothing that would impact the look and feel of the store. My father and uncle have been retired now for 10 plus years and nothing's changed. I don't want to change the walls. I think it's perfect. It's imperfect. Believe me, it's not how you would draw up a restaurant from scratch, but that's what gives it charm. And that's what I think is so beautiful. And some of the reason that people love to come here is that nostalgia and that classic atmosphere, obviously in addition to the food, but I would never change any of that. That said, back of house, sure, accounting stuff and inventory stuff, no one's wed to that.
You made a few other changes. You opened a takeout location in Brooklyn?
Yes. So I would put all of the things that I've done, all the changes that I've done have been about bringing the Katz's experience closer to you, wherever you are. It gets harder and harder to come down to the Lower East Side, whether you're talking parking or subways or just flying to New York. You don't live in New York anymore. So we opened in Brooklyn to cater to regulars. We expanded our catering offerings through the 5 boroughs, sending carvers, things like that. And we ship nationwide. And we really focused on expanding that because people in other parts of the country crave good old-fashioned deli. And so we can provide that. For this week alone, we're sending out well over 2,000 orders.
Because we're recording in the week before Passover.
Yeah, but even last week was, 1,200, 1,300. So there is still a demand all the time for deli. Yes, of course, there's spikes during holiday seasons and things like that. But it's very important. It's me saying I'm not changing Katz's. We're 137 years old. We are not touching the walls. We're not touching the recipes. We're not touching the way of life that is Katz's. All we're doing is making it easier to get it to you.
Well, shipping, I mean, in World War II, the slogan was send a salami to your boy in the army.
Which rhymes if you say it like a true New Yorker.
Yeah, right. The customers you're shipping to.
Yes.
Are they Jewish? Are they not? I mean, I don't know how you can tell, but...
You see a couple of Bergs and Witzers in there, but I would say it's, if you look at a density map of where we're shipping and were to compare that to the U.S. population density map, it's really similar. I mean, we're sending everywhere. It's not just Jewish neighborhoods. There certainly are. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of Jewish customers, but there's also the ex-New Yorkers or the New Yorker or the people that have visited New York or the people that watch the Food Network or Travel Channel, or there's people that got it as a gift one time and then now they want to give it to someone else. So there's a lot of different people in this country that are really into a homemade product. And that's what we do. We make everything ourselves. We cure it all. We smoke it all. We hand roll everything, all the matzo balls and latkes and all these products you just can't find in a lot of other places. Or not that you can't find it, but it's harder to find.
I don't think scratch made is the first description that comes to mind when someone's thinking of a deli. Although, especially among foodies these days, that's a big deal that everything is done on site. How do you do that? I mean, these are old Ashkenazi Jewish recipes from God knows when. Your staff is, for the most part, not Jewish.
Right.
I read where you say you like to hire from the neighborhood and the Lower East Side is no longer particularly Jewish. How physically are you able to do that much work?
The number one component of a lot of the things that we do is time. That's our biggest headache, right? I can teach anyone to roll a matzo ball. I can teach anyone to make some latkes. It's just time in a day, it's space, it's things like that. So we have our smokehouse where we do our shipping out of, but everything eventually comes through the store. So there's a lot of overnight cooking and we're just cooking 24 hours a day and there's always someone doing there. To your other point there, my guys have been with my family for generations sometimes. So I don't really start teaching people things until year 5 or 6. I got to make sure you are a good person, that you work hard, that you have, that you are someone I want to invest my time in too, and it's a reciprocal relationship, right? Because this place is not for everyone and not everyone is for this place. But once you're there, I'll teach you. And then you're here for another 20, 30 years and you'll teach the next person and so on and so forth.
We'll be right back. When I talk to chefs at other restaurants, they're hiring culinary school grads, people who always wanted to be a chef. You're not.
Hell no.
Hell no.
Sorry.
No, but...
Sorry, I cannot say it loud enough, fast enough, strong enough. I don't want any of that.
Why?
My reason is different than other people's reason. I don't want turnover. I don't want people who are using this as a stepping stone because I want to hire people who it's their career, it's their life, they're supporting their family, we can support each other for the long term. I don't want to get a 22-year-old who's here for a year and a half and then he goes and does whatever. I've wasted my time and you've wasted the time of the other staff that have been here for that many years. So I don't want any of that crap.
The economics of running a restaurant are daunting.
It's the understatement of this century.
Yeah, thank you. I can certainly state the obvious. You mentioned wanting people who work for you to be able to support their families. Obviously, you're paying more than minimum wage.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're also a union shop and have been for the last 70 years. Health benefits and dental and annuity and things like that. The economics of deli are different than the economics of other restaurants. And in some ways, it's even worse, right? Because you're relying on your handful of products that don't change. You don't get the luxury of saying, hey, meat went up because of XYZ reason. Let's just take off meat for a couple weeks until the prices level out a little bit. But there'd be a riot in this damn store if I suddenly, nope, no pastrami, no corned beef, no brisket, no turkey. Good luck. So the economics of deli are particularly hard compared to other restaurants. They're hard in every restaurant, but two things that have kept us going for many years. This first and by far most important is that we own the building and we don't pay rent to where 90% of our profit is disappearing, So we are incredibly lucky that 50 years ago, in a terrible neighborhood, a purchase was made, and we're seeing those benefits today. But that is the beauty of a family business and a multi-generation business, and something where I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about my kids, and I'm thinking about their kids. So the decisions I'm making are 50 years, 100-year timeline decisions. That helps. The other thing that I think helps for the economics of deli, it's a volume game. So you need volume, you need customers. And knock on wood, we've been very lucky. Especially coming out of COVID, the last couple of years have been very good to us. It's very humbling to see a line of customers. And it also makes us work that much harder because we know what we got to do.
What kind of volume, customer-wise, do you have these days?
Easily, we see 2,000-3,000 people in a day. Crazy days can get up to 4,000. Sometimes it depends on the season and the day of the week and the weather and the temperature and all these other things. That could be 400 people in a day. It's such a range. You mentioned you're unique. The experience of being a customer there is unlike any experience I've ever had anywhere else. Well, why don't you walk folks through it for those who have not waited in line for 45 minutes outside, stamping their feet because it's cold, and then they get in and it can seem like chaos. And it's not. Yeah, but the very end of it is the most cathartic moment in all of food. That first bite. But what do I see when I walk in, and what do I do, and how do I get my food? I will say the line outside moves faster than you realize, right? The 45 minutes is if it's literally turning the corner and we're down the other block, which has happened certain times a year. Yeah, I got in 20 the other day. Yeah, that's more normal, 15, 20, somewhere in that range. It moves, it looks a lot scarier than it actually is. It's also a tremendous communal experience. Oh, yeah, fair. Yeah. When we were in line last time around, we're talking, and then the folks in front of us were talking, and I realized they didn't know what they were talking about, so we started talking about deli and what you want. It's very much a group chat. Well, right. So, I mean, that's switching gears a little, I guess, but our customers, we have regulars from all over the world. And it's one of the things I love most about this place is you get the Wall Street guys sitting next to the sanitation guys, sitting next to the tourists from the Netherlands, sitting next, you know what I mean? Like you really get this blend of people and New Yorkers. And I think that's really, really important point that I want to stress because, sometimes I see the comments that, oh, you're a tourist place, no one goes there anymore. And it's like, no, well, yes, we're lucky that tourists come to us because that helps keep us in business, but we get New Yorkers quite regularly as well. So anyway, so the experience. You come in, you get a ticket. I will say the ticket is a source of confusion and sometimes contention. You need that ticket. If you lose that ticket, I threaten to charge you with a fee. I don't want to charge you a fee, to be clear. Well, the alleged fee is $50, right? 50 plus what you ate. Said the business owner with an MBA. Because I've had some people be like, well, I could just lose this $150 ticket and then, it's only $50. And it's like, oh. So it's just to scare you to find it because where could that ticket be? It's in your pocket or it's on the table. Like I just need the ticket because that's how I keep track of everyone. What do I do with the ticket? So that's your check. Anything you get gets put on there. We write the prices and we just keep a running tab, and at the end you pay. So that's why it's so important for us to know, even if it's blank, even if you didn't use it, we need those tickets. So as I walk down and people need to understand, you basically go to this counter where there are different stations depending upon what you're ordering. Yes. And at each place when you order, you give the ticket to whoever's behind the counter and they add. Exactly. So you start with the grill. You can get a little hot dog appetizer. So I know you're a real New Yorker. Maybe get a beer while you're waiting online. And then you move over to your sandwiches. And each cutter has their own line. And you go up, you interact with the cutter, you get a little taste. I would say you could talk about what you want, but try to have an idea in your mind because there's a line of people behind you and people are hungry. So try to have some decisions or thoughts made or questions that you want, one or two questions you want to ask or things you want to try. But know that before you get to the very front because I'm not going to say I'm going to curse you out or that my guys are going to curse you out. But, we got shit to do. This is New York. And then you go to get your sodas, your fries, things like that. You sit, you eat, you pay. If you don't want to deal with any of that, you want waiter service, I got that too.
Yeah, but it's around the corner in the back. A lot of people don't know it's there.
Right. We try to tell them as they come in, waiter service in the back, self-service in the front. So there's certain New Yorkers that will only do waiter service and certain New Yorkers that will only do self-service. And some tourists that don't know what's what and will do both.
Why do you have your guys hand slice the meats? A lot of well-known places, they use the machine. What does hand slicing bring to the party?
Yes, fair. There's a little misconception, I feel like, too, where some people feel like the act of the hand slice is what's better. And I would argue that it's everything done before the act of the hand slicing that's making the difference. We are cooking it so long that it is so tender and so juicy that if you were to put it on a slicer, it would crumble and you would not physically be able to run it through a slicer. And you in reality need to undercook it, or not undercook it. You cook it a little differently if you're planning on using a slicer. And I would argue that is the difference. Not so much the act of hand carving, even though there are certain potential benefits there as well.
Like?
You can maneuver through gristle and silver skin and fat in a more effective way. You can listen to if a customer wants a little, juicy side, but a little leaner, but, lean side, but a little bit of fat. You can do those kind of things a little bit better if you're hand carving.
Well, that's like the old Yiddish joke where the shopper is telling the guy behind the counter, cut. And after about 5 minutes, she says, okay, I'll take half a quarter from the middle.
100%. Listen, I have seen it all back there. I mean, that's not even a joke. That's actually just Tuesday for us. They'll be like, no, I want a fresh piece. And you're like, all right, well, these pieces, I don't know what that means, but sure. Okay, no problem. We'll go back there, get a new piece from there. Okay, let me see it. Okay, cut it open. But that's why we have the cutters there, is to make sure that you get exactly what you want. If you are that particular, I respect that. And most of my staff feels the same way, where you're like, as long as it's with an end goal in mind and you're not just being a pain in the ass for just being a sake of being a pain in the ass, we like that. We like, to make sure that you're happy.
Back in a moment. Pastrami's your number one item?
Currently, yes. So we sell about 40,000 pounds a week of pastrami.
And that, given the size of them, is about 4 sandwiches.
6.
Why? And look, what's a pastrami on right now? What's it cost?
$28.95. And you get about 3/4 of a pound of meat on there. It's actually pretty good value when you compare to other things in New York City. I mean, listen, you go to some of those salad chains and they're like $20-something for salad.
Why we're supposedly health conscious. Why 3/4 of a pound of meat on one Sammy?
Well, that's a tradition. As Tevi would say, that's the way we've done it. So, we do have half sandwich and soup combos, half sandwich and salad combos.
Anyone who goes to Katz's for a salad is off my list. Let me back up. So how do you make the pastrami? What do you do?
Every possible thing that you can do to a piece of meat gets done to that pastrami.
It's not brisket.
So it's navel.
It's navel.
Correct.
Which is corned beef is brisket, right?
100% right. Yeah. So the tradition of deli says that you should use a navel for pastrami. And plenty of other people use briskets, or hell, even Boar's Head uses a top round, which is crazy to me. But so a navel, part of the reason you want to use a navel is you have the fat in the middle. And so when you get to later parts of the process, that makes a difference. Whereas brisket, the fat is located on the top. So pastrami, you cure it. Well, both pastrami and corned beef you cure for about 3-4 weeks. Just a nice salt bath. It really, and again, that's time. There's no shortcuts on that. Some people will shortcut. We don't. I believe there's a difference there.
Is this a process where, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm talking about something else, but there are, the meat goes in one barrel for a while and then it's moved to a different barrel of brine?
Right. So you can do it a couple different ways. You can do that where you have different levels of salt. It's not always necessary. And that's where you get a little more like nuanced with the individual pieces that you have. If they have different fat distributions, you kind of need maybe a stronger solution to penetrate a little bit deeper. Now, keep in mind, by the way, this tradition predates refrigeration. So that's why you're putting this much salt in it, so that you don't need to put it in a fridge. We do, because, modern health code. And then you smoke it for pastrami. Corned beef, you don't.
Okay, you smoke it over what?
My smokers are about the size of the room I'm sitting in. They're humongous smokers. You put them on these giant racks. You're smoking up 4,000 pounds of meat at a time, and you're letting it sit for a very, very, very long time. You're using wood chips that are more traditional to the area because that's what would have been done always. You're using basics, for your rub, you're doing basics, salt, pepper, garlic, coriander, flavors like that. Again, this is tradition we're talking. And so these were old world cooking techniques applied to foods that were readily available here. That's delicatessen in a nutshell. Eastern European, Jewish, Ashkenazi immigrants in the mid to late 1800s. Obviously, we've sort of morphed the definition of deli over time, but at its core, we do the tradition of deli. So after you smoke it, you boil it for 4, 5, 6 hours. You steam it for another half hour. I mean, at this point, the meat literally, it jiggles. It falls apart if you were to treat it too harshly. That's what we love. That sight is beautiful. When you see a cart of pastrami coming out and the whole thing's just sort of like jello, and you're just like, there it is. That's ready to be eaten. And then we got to carve it by hand. Got to take out the parts that are inedible and trim up a perfect sandwich.
You sell it mostly as a sandwich. I mean, you can get a plate, right? Yeah,
you can. And you can do it by the pound. Shipping, we do all by the pound. But yeah, in store, it's primarily sandwiches.
Pastrami on rye is your favorite?
Personally, yeah. Corned beef used to outsell pastrami 2-1. And then sort of an interesting evolution, I think, with television programs, the pastrami photographed better, then pastrami became more popular for a time, and then corned beef started making a comeback once Reubens came on the scene, because Reubens are not a traditional deli sandwich at all.
Well, wait, I read that you said that a Reuben is, quote, a horseshit sandwich.
No, I don't remember saying that, but it does sound like something I would say.
I'll send you the interview you did.
Listen, I believe it. It does sound like something I would say.
Why is it a horseshit sandwich?
I should clarify that. I like Reubens. If we're talking about the tradition of deli, it is not a deli sandwich.
Because
you would never have cheese in a deli.
Kosher milk and meat don't, yeah.
Yeah, we were not kosher. We've never been kosher. We've never said we were kosher. We even had a sign in the front for people who were kosher that said, we are not kosher, do not come in here. But yet we never had cheese. It didn't matter because no matter how unkosher you were, there were certain limits that you didn't cross with that first, second generation, maybe third generation too, where you don't have cheese with your meat and you don't have pork. And like those were and shellfish. And those, not that that applies to us, but those were sort of your hard lines. So how could Reuben exist as a sandwich? So it is a horseshit sandwich as far as the tradition of deli. That said, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we added cheese on the menu because so many customers were asking for it. And we already had milk in the store because we had coffee in the store, which, was a big step for us in the late 80s. So that was already, we already had the dairy. We're like, all right, what's cheese? Who cares? Fine, let's do it at this point. It's a different generation. And yeah, Reubens are damn good sandwiches. They're just not delis.
Let's talk about what's deli. I mean, it's one thing to think about, okay, pastrami sandwich on rye with mustard, otherwise your back breaks, with a Dr. Brown's celery soda.
Absolutely. Celery tonic. There you go.
Let's go through some other true deli dishes that you're handcrafting.
So we do a lot of matzo ball soups and a lot of latkes. We make our own chopped liver, egg salad, tuna salad, chicken salad. I mean, all these things, blintzes. We make blintzes. But latkes to me are I always come back to that because that's my absolute favorite.
For the 4 people on earth who don't know, latkes are potato pancakes. What do you do? How do you make yours?
Potatoes, onions, salt, pepper. You don't need a lot to make a great latke flavor-wise. Like, there's great other new, fun, creative things, and I do love that. Anything deli that's like a new take on a classic, I'm all for. I love it.
But I'm not going to see it at your place.
Yeah, it's not what I do. I'm here for you to learn about tradition, and I hope they bring you in to want to learn more. You know what I mean? Like that's how I view the dynamic, and there's more than enough deli business to go around, so it's fine. Like I'm not concerned. Anyway, the latkes, it's about how you're frying them. Are you double frying?
Well, are you double frying?
It would appear so if you looked at some of them.
Here's a dish many, many people have never heard of. Kishka, which then in parentheses it says stuffed derma.
Oh, love kishka.
Why don't you explain that dish, which is probably responsible for so many old Jewish men dying of heart attacks, but it's the best thing on earth. So what's with kishka?
For those who have never heard this term, I will explain. It's schmaltz.
Fat.
That's the answer to your question. That's the answer to why they're dying. That's the answer to why it's delicious. Is schmaltz. It's chicken fat, and it's fucking amazing. And it should be topped on every dish ever in the history of the world.
What goes into kishka? Aside from chicken fat.
So yeah, it's the only thing that matters though. But it's basically like Thanksgiving stuffing is the best way to describe it. It traditionally was in a stuffed. The reason it was stuffed derma was you were stuffing it in an intestinal casing, intestinal lining. Too many customers were kind of grossed out by seeing the intestine. So then we started switching to plastic, but it's the same filling, same, Thanksgiving stuffing plus schmaltz. That's great. Yeah.
How popular is it? Is it just old Jewish guys like me?
Yeah. Nowadays, it's not quite what, the volume that it once was.
But you're going to keep it on the menu, right?
Of course. Yeah. We still do, a couple 100 pounds a week. So it's not nothing, but I think there's a demand decline, shall we say there. Same with like tongue. I love tongue. You just don't see as many customers ordering tongue as you used to, but like a good center cut. Whew. We got center cut, we got tip. I mean, we take the whole tongues, we pickle them and cook them up and everything.
Why do you have two kinds of knishes, round and square?
Preference. Some people, I'm a square guy, but some people feel really strongly about preferring round.
Let's talk about hot dogs. I'm not sure a lot of people, the first thing they think of with a deli is hot dogs, but there's a long tradition there.
Huge tradition. We get voted best hot dog in New York quite frequently. I'll sell 3,000-4,000 hot dogs a week easily.
Where do you get those?
So it's our recipe. We don't have that machinery, so it's a third party doing it for us. Although we've talked about it because we already, we have the smokehouse in the facility. It's just hasn't made sense for us. But yeah, no, mustard and kraut, that's all you need. Listen, we do have the red onions if you prefer that, but I do give people a lot of crap for putting ketchup on if you're above the age of like 6 or 7.
Ooh.
And someone from my social media team, which I say team, but it's really like my waiter who I made in charge of Instagram, went around, started taking pictures or videos of the staff eating hot dogs to turn into a fun video. Like, hey, what did you do on your hot dog? And like some of them, I was like, can't believe they work here and they're doing this crazy shit on a hot dog. But like, I think that's kind of cool about a hot dog is it's almost like a form of expression. It's where you get creative, I guess. But for me, it's mustard and kraut.
Okay, I don't think this was on the menu way back when. You're doing a cheesesteak?
We added the cheesesteak in, I'm going to say 2005 or so. It was easy. I mean, we already have the roast beef. We're doing the top rounds. We buy the whole top rounds and we treat them. And then we take those top rounds and slice them up. And we already have the cheese in-house. And we already have the club bread in-house. And we already have onions and peppers. And so it was easy. We sell a surprising amount of cheesesteaks. And if we're being honest, it's what I ate today for lunch. I don't regularly eat them, but I was weirdly craving one. I will say, you have to come in with the mindset of a New York-style cheesesteak, not a Philly cheesesteak. It is New York. It's a hard roll. It's not the soft roll. It's not whiz. It's not provolone. It's Swiss, and it's it's sharper and it's a little more bite to it. And as long as you're kind of coming in with that mindset, it's very good, very good. That said, if you only ever come in once, of course, get the classic. This is more for I come with a table of 3, 4, 5, 6 people, and you try this, try that, which I honestly believe is the way to do Katz's. You get a big group and you try to get as much shit as possible and fill that table up and really get to try a little bit of everything because there's so many good things. It's just you can't order all of that as one person.
What else should I order that I might not think of when I come to you?
We have on the menu something called the combination sandwich. It is whatever you want it to be. So you want to put any two things, you can put them side by side or you can put them on top of each other. You can make a brisket turkey sandwich. You can make a pastrami chopped liver sandwich. I mean, you get sort of these infinite options that you can do there. I would recommend that. I already mentioned matzo ball soup and latkes are without a doubt my favorite. And I always say I'm happy to be the second best you ever had, where the first is your grandma, or whoever it is that has that real emotional hold on that food for you. I don't want to compete with that person, but I do want that second place spot.
To what degree are you selling memories and emotion?
Huge. Any food, any restaurant, any meal, that is a huge component of it. Unless you're literally eating while you're running somewhere. When you sit at a table with another person, there's an experience happening. In any restaurant, I don't care where it is. We get the luxury of being able to bring to that table the memories of all those people's first times being there, or their stories coming here, and layer it on with the history that they see around them, and the sights and the sounds, and certainly the smells of the place. Emotion is humongous, and I love that. I think that, to me, is my favorite part of this place. As much as I do love the food, I love the emotion and the nostalgia that go along with it.
I glean from our conversation that you're doing well. The business is good.
Yeah, I mean, for now, things are going great. You never know. You never know what tomorrow holds, yeah.
Well, the big storyline in writing about delis over the past few years is that the American deli is in trouble. The American deli is dying.
I am familiar with that, and it's not wrong. It is, I think, maybe an incomplete thought. It is correct, but I think there's more to that it's dying, but that there's a resurgence and there's a desire to connect to history and and heritage, right? If this is your heritage in some way or form, there's a desire to connect to that. If it's not, there's a desire to learn about someone else's heritage. So I do think that makes it not fully die. While it took a blow, as any cuisine ever does when you go generation to generation, there'll be a day where we say the same thing about pizza, I'm sure, right? Foods ebb and they flow, and that's normal. That's okay. New York ebbs and flows, and that's a beautiful thing.
At what point, I mean, the bagel's a good example of this. At what point does the food that started out as Jewish immigrant food then become New York food and then go national?
I would say a lot of that has to do with emigration patterns, right? Like almost everyone of the Jewish Ashkenazi heritage started in Ellis Island or came through the Lower East Side. So many. And yeah, of course, there's other routes. There's Montreal and there's Argentina and there's other directions that people went, but there's such a high proportion of that. And then once they leave New York and they go to Westchester or to here, or they start going to Cleveland, or then they start going to Chicago and then LA or down to Miami, they bring with them the food that they know. So like half a generation, it starts to leave, and a generation later, it starts to come back in some form. That is a great question. And if you figure out that answer fully, let me know, because I like that question a lot. I don't know.
What's the future for Katz's?
Keep doing what we're doing. Focus on the next 137 years. And beyond that, not much else. Preserve tradition, preserve nostalgia, find ways to make customers happy, to bring experiences to customers closer to where they are or easier to where they are or stuff like that, and stay relevant if it's needed, when we can, in a way that makes sense for us.
So will we see a Katz's in LA one day?
Never say never. My issue right now is I don't know how to do the food well out there. The water sucks. No offense, LA. And I need a brine and I need a cook, and all of my food requires a lot of water. That's why bagels are different and pizza's different. And there are people figuring it out. So listen, maybe there's a future for it. I don't see it now. I'll do some pop-ups here and there and have some fun along the way. But to open a whole another restaurant when I'm not confident that my food's going to be 100%, I'll never do it.
Jake, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you.
Likewise.
Given how much I love Katz's, I was really looking forward to this chat, and I've really enjoyed it very much.
Likewise,
so,
yeah.
Thank you. Best of luck to you, Jake, and take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Katz's owner, Jake Dell, on Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page, and I'll see you next time.